Hey y'all, I'm gonna just apologize in advance. I am battling a cold, and between the mucus and the coughing and the fever, this episode was woo, child. I had to pull it out of me. So if it's not one of my best, blame it on my sickness because I keep coughing and carrying on all over. But I was never gonna leave y'all without an episode. So I think y'all are gonna like this. But please do forgive me for the scratchiness of my voice. And yeah, let's get on with it. Hello, y'all. Welcome to another episode of the Melanin Mayhem podcast, hosted by me, your favorite country girl, Renee Davis. Here at Melanin Mayhem, my goal is to entertain and educate you about some of the most prolific criminals you've either never heard about, or if you have heard about them, you've only heard the headlines. But over here, we go deep, honey, because there is a persistent myth in our community that there are just some crimes that Black people don't commit. And that's a lie. These prolific killing, raping, and robbing motherfuckers are getting away with fucking us up because we have been misled, bamboozled, and led astray by this fucking lie. But never fear, Melanin Mayhem gonna get you right, honey. And to the newbies, thank you for joining us today. Now don't be alarmed by my reckless mouth. You'll get used to it. Just ask my peoples, the fine members of the Noir Nation, honey. Hey, fam. It's time for us to cut up a little bit. And this week, I am bringing you another banger. Or should I say strangler? You see, this week's is considered to be Missouri's most prolific serial killer. And this nigga, he's another history maker. Oh, yes. He holds the title of the most murder charges than anyone ever in Kansas City history, as well as the whole state of Missouri. But check this out. When his job found out about what he did, all they could say was, he would be the last person that you would think would be accused of something like that. Yet he was the most prolific serial killer Missouri had ever seen. Another one of them niggas that just blend into the background. He looks regular and got people fooled like hell. Another tale of a man that was living a double life and he strangled his way into the history books. So let's get this thing cracking, y'all. Bringing to the front of the congregation, this week's Melanin Mayhem maker is Mr. Lorenzo Gilyard Jr., aka the Kansas City Strangler. So let's start it off with a little bit of background. You know how we do. Lorenzo Gilyard Jr. was born May 24th, 1950 in Kansas City, Missouri. Clearly, he was born, so he had a mother, but I couldn't find anything on her, not even her name. But I do know he had a daddy, and his name was Lorenzo J. Gilyard Sr. Lorenzo, you're gonna see, was a man that just could not stay at some shit. I mean, he spent the better part of his life in and out of courtrooms, jails, and prisons for all mannerisms of strong arm and smackdown crimes. And from the outside looking in, one might think that he was a troubled youth and a troubled young adult that finally got his life on track. But boy, would one be wrong, honey, because Lorenzo was a sneaky, audacious bastard with an affinity for squeezing the life out of bitch by her neck. This man beat, raped, and strangled every last one of his victims. And his victims, y'all, the least protected in our society. The women that do something strange for a little piece of change. You know what I'm talking about? The ones that'll let you stroke for some dope. These women were creatures of habit. They worked the stroll between Main Street and Troost Avenue, and they died in the same 5-mile radius of Lorenzo's house. But it would be decades before anybody knew who did it. Now, I'm going to tell you this off the bat. Lorenzo was married a bunch of times. He had at least 11 children with various women. So, brother man was slanging that thing all over Missouri. It all started November 15th, 1968, when Lorenzo jumped the broom for the first time. His bride, a woman named Rena Hill, and they were married from like 68 to 73. Now, 2 years later, after they got married, Lorenzo's daddy, I'm talking about Senior, he goes to jail for rape. Now, they gave him 6 months. I'm just shaking my head because it just boils my blood, y'all, when I read about how rape was just nothing back in the day. But I'm not going to dwell on it because I can't do nothing about what happened in the 70s. We just going to move on. But Lorenzo, he would get into some shit. Like, the first thing he got into was a little fight that ended in a simple assault charge July 19th, 1973. And they gave him 30 days in the cage and a year's probation. And I guess that's really not bad until you factor in the fact that at this point, Lorenzo has been accused of rape like 5 times by now. And authorities say that he would bully the women into not testifying. But somebody finally stood up to that ass. Oh, yes. February 17th, 1974, Lorenzo was at the strip club. And he finds that he likes one of the dancers. So he tried to see if, she down with a little sex in the champagne room without the champagne. And she's like, no, thank you. Well, Lorenzo was not one to be turned down. He was going to take what he wanted. And he did just that. He caught her as she left the club over off of 27th Avenue in Troost, and he raped that 25-year-old stripper. But that wasn't enough for Lorenzo. Apparently, strong arm and some pussy really made him feel some kind of way, and he wanted to do it again. And so he did. Baby, July 29th, 1974, he grabs up a child, a 13-year-old girl in Riverfront Park. He raped and beat this girl. Now, they arrested him the same day. And understand, they knew about the stripper's assault too, but they declined to prosecute. You motherfuckers, you. But get this. According to the street committee, the 13-year-old girl was a sister of one of his friends. Oh, my Lord. With friends like that, you don't need no enemies, honey. And they did charge him for raping that minor. But don't get happy, because they gave that punk-ass nigga 9 months for beating and raping a child. Tell me she was black without saying it. Motherfuckers. Noir Nation. Like I said, Lorenzo only went to jail for a gang of petty crimes. Now, the big shit that he was doing, he skated on all of that. So I have to report the news about what this Negro was up to. But just hang with me. I'm going to get to the meat of the matter in just a minute. Because your boy, he's definitely about to jump off the porch. But for right now, he stayed in an old probationary type of situation. Like in January of 77, he gave the police a fake name. They gave him a $25 fine and 6 months of probation. And then 2 months later, in March of 77, he was charged with taking somebody's property. They gave him a $50 fine and 6 months of probation. But you see right here, he's on probation and he's still out here doing stupid shit. Why didn't they revoke his probation and send his ass up the river? Because maybe if they had, 17-year-old Stacy Swarford, she wouldn't have been found laid out deader than a motherfucker in a vacant lot over off of Garfield Avenue on April 17th, 1977. Now, April was known to work the stroll over by Troost Avenue and Main Street. We're just going to, throw it out there for, you'll see where we go with that. Now, in February of 1979, still doing stupid shit, he got arrested for having weapons. They fined him $100 and gave him 12 months of probation. Now, in the meantime, in between time, in September of 79, Lorenzo jumps the broom for the second time. This one lasts less than a year because Lorenzo liked to go upside their head. Love hurts with this nigga. But he's still out here killing. Like, he doesn't take a break. Well, he takes a little break. I guess he was on his honeymoon. But January 23rd of 1980, 15-year-old Gwendolyn Kazan was found face down, ass up in an alley by the Paseo by somebody that was headed to work. Ain't that a horrible way to start your day off? You trying to get to work and make your 8, and damn if you ain't ran across a dead body. Now, Gwendolyn was fully clothed, but she was missing her shoes. Gwendolyn was also known to work the stroll over on Troost Avenue. And she's just a baby. 15 years old, y'all. A little cute little chocolate drop just gone too soon. And in between his murder rape obsessions, this nigga was still going upside his wife's head just like he did with his first wife. Lorenzo was putting hands and laying hands and putting hands and laying hands. Now, this second wife, she pressed charges, but Lorenzo got charges on charges on charges. Nothing ever sticks. So she did somehow manage to get an order of protection, but y'all know Lorenzo wasn't studying that shit. He ignored the hell out of that order of protection. Now, she said that he stayed popping up at her house, threatening to kill her, and then turning around bringing her stolen shit, talking about, I'm sorry. Their divorce would be final January 19th, 1981. And I guess to celebrate the divorce, on February 7th, 1981, Lorenzo gets charged with burglary. And this time, he finally get a little piece of time. They gave him 4 years when they sentenced him, but he wouldn't go before a judge until like November, end of the year of 1981, right? And for the next 8 months, and some change, he's still on that bullshit. Because 6 days later, after being charged with that burglary, on February 13th, this time he catch an aggravated assault charge. Like, sir. And he's still not done. Because September, same year, he get a year for third-degree assault for going upside his wife's head again. This time he was literally trying to kill her. See, what had happened was the police had came to talk to her and she told them, look, this nigga stay bringing me jewelry. And she showed it to him. Come to find out, this jewelry is stolen. So they're going to go look for Lorenzo. The next day, he come beating on her door. He breaks the door down and stabs her with an ice pick. This woman literally had to jump out of the window while this nigga was shooting at her. And all he get is third-degree assault? Like, what he gotta do? Kill somebody? Oh yeah, he's already doing that and getting a pass on that shit too. All these motherfucking charges, and they still ain't checked this nigga in the cell block D yet? Like, can y'all make it make sense, Noir Nation? Because it don't make sense to me. The math is not mathing. November 20th, 1981. 1981 was like a real banner year for him. He was assaulting everything and everybody he could because he catches another assault charge in November. This time it's assault and burglary. They give him a year for the assault and 4 years for breaking into somebody's shit. But you know, maybe, just maybe, if anybody had enforced any one of these sentences that he's already gotten, perhaps 17-year-old Margaret Miller would still be alive today. But sadly, this young, beautiful, melanated woman was found May 9th, 1982, in a vacant lot full of weeds over there by Garfield Avenue. Now, Margaret was missing her bra and her panties. And Margaret also liked to work the stroll over there on Troost Avenue. Y'all starting to see a pattern yet? Or is it just me? Because the police clearly didn't see a pattern. Now, Lorenzo would finally go to prison for one of them damn charges that he'd been sentenced for. They locked him up finally on May 17th, 1982. But as usual with these niggas, he didn't even do a whole year in prison. They paroled him to jail. So I guess this is a step down process. January 10th, 1983. So he did 8 months in prison for all the shit that he's done. And then he was a free man February 9th, 1983. Like, that does not make sense. That's a year for everything that he's done. Make it make sense, Noir Nation. But baby, when he hit the streets this time, I guess he was ready to make a change for the better. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. Unless you are a murdering murderer who murders and a raping rapist that rapes. Then you need to go do some hard time as part of the whole turning over a new leaf initiative. You know what I'm saying? So he gets paroled, and as soon as he gets paroled, he gets a job with the garbage company. The garbage company is called Deffenbaugh, and he's a trash man. And his raping ass daddy worked there too. Now, mind you, he literally just got paroled right before getting his job. His PO was probably telling him, don't let me see you again. If I see you again, it's going to be trouble. So Lorenzo is going to get a real job and become a productive member of society, right? That's a load of crap. Because, yeah, he got the job. And, yeah, he presented like he was one of the good guys. But we can see this nigga is anything but a good guy. 2 months later, the body started dropping again. 34-year-old Catherine Berry, she was a tragic tale. Baby, she lived a good life. She was married and out here having children. Had one baby. Okay. Had two babies. Okay. But baby, when that third baby came, the afterbirth wasn't the only thing she lost. Miss Barry slipped into a new world of severe mental illness and she took to the streets of KC. She found her groove over on Troost Avenue. And she would be out the street preaching, and every single day you could catch her walking to the church to attend Mass. A nigga looking for something to drink just so happened to stumble over her body under a piece of plywood on March 14th, 1986. Catherine was naked and strangled with the rosary beads that was around her neck. I mean, I guess on the one hand, we should be thankful for a thirsty nigga, because if he hadn't been looking for something to drink, he probably wouldn't have found Catherine. But on the other hand, Lorenzo ass gonna bust hell wide open for strangling that lady with them rosary beads. That's just audacious. Just no respect for the law. Just a bona fide heathen ass, sacrilegious ass nigga. Okay, Kansas Cityans. Is that what they call people from Kansas City? Kansas Cityans? If you from KC, do you remember back in the day there was a park? It was called the Margaret Kemp Park. And according to my research, the peoples went over there to go do drugs and things. You know what I'm saying? The shit went down over there at the Margaret Kemp, if you know what I mean. Poor Naomi Kelly. She was a 23-year-old sex worker, and a wino found her like he literally stopped at the park to have a drink. And as he was taking a drink and walking, he stumbled over her body, like literally fell on top of Naomi. And much like the woman who preceded her, not only was she dead, she was strangled, she was naked, and she was a prostitute that liked to work the Troost Avenue area. Y'all seeing a pattern yet? Because again, the police don't see no patterns. Now, y'all, I apologize because I know my voice is going in and out. My daughter has given me a cold, and so I am really trying to battle it as best I can. But, oh, Lord, the cough of it all. Moving on, though, on November 27th, 1986, somebody called the police because it looked like somebody was in the bushes in front of this church. The police come and they find 32-year-old Debbie Blevins. She is communing with the Lord, naked except for her socks. And you know, when they say come as you are, Lorenzo, this is not what they meant. Not to mention, when this happened, November 27th, 1986, this is Thanksgiving. Sir, you should not be out here strangling nobody on Thanksgiving. This is not what we give thanks for, sir. Do better. Jesus is not pleased. And then again, y'all, they are just piling up. Ann Barnes, she's 36 years old. They found her in the alley on April 17th, 1987. Then they found 20-year-old Kelly Ford, June 9th, 1987. And they keep coming like there is no stop. Only go. Angela Mayhew, they found her September 2nd, 1987, over in a field over off of Genesee. Now, they did not find any body fluids on her, but they did find somebody's hair that didn't belong to her. I wonder whose hair it is that's found on this woman's sweater. Y'all take a guess. And again, the bodies keep on coming. On November 3rd, 1987, Sheila Ingo was found in a van outside of a repair shop on Troost Avenue. Now, let me tell you how it happened. Somebody put an ad in the paper for the van for sale. Somebody else pops up and was like, hey, I want to buy the van. You know, they look around, kick the tires, and then they open the doors. And baby, there is a dead woman up in the van. I'm sorry, I'm going to pass on the van with the dead woman inside. Again, Troost Avenue. Are we seeing a pattern? All of these women are known sex workers. They are all known to frequent Main Street, Troost Avenue area. They are all dead. They are all strangled. Most of them are naked or missing something. But the police do not see a pattern. Even when 30-year-old Carmeline Hibbs is found dead on December 19th, 1987, they found her dumped in a parking lot. Again, dead. Dead prostitute, naked prostitute that's been strangled. But y'all think this is a one-off killation? Make it make sense. How can you not see the pattern? Now, some kind of way, I do not know how because I could not find it in the research, but December of 1987, they ended up taking a sample of Lorenzo's blood. Now, what they were going to do with it, I don't know, because we are still way off from the age of DNA testing, right? But they got the blood and they got it on ice. So maybe something will come from this in a little bit. But not before 26-year-old Helga Kruger was found dead on February 12, 1989, nude, strangled, and very much dead. Now, at this point, Lorenzo's criminalistic activities start catching up with him because on October 30th, 1989, he starts a 3-year bid for sex abuse and third-degree assault. Let me tell y'all what this nigga did to earn this little time. One night, he helping his neighbor load some stuff up in her car. When they got through, he invite her over to his place. He want to make them breakfast for dinner. I'm making pancakes. Whatever, nigga. The neighbor's like, okay, sure, whatever. So they eat, and then they just chilling, enjoying a glass of wine, when all of a sudden Lorenzo just pounces on this woman. I'm talking hands everywhere. She trying to get away and make him stop. His little apartment is a studio, so you know it ain't but yay big. And she ain't got nowhere to run. And Lorenzo's psychotic ass start talking about how he gonna kill himself because she gonna tell on him. And then he starts threatening to kill her. So this nigga got a knife to her throat and he is sodomizing her. Like, what? When she is finally able to leave, she goes straight to the cops. Lorenzo copped to everything that he did to her except for the sodomy. And for that, they gave him 3 years. 3 years for terrorizing your neighbor? 3 years when we know you have a history of domestic abuse as well as sexual abuse. 3 years? Ugh, I just cannot. This nigga go do them 3 years. And when he get out, can you please tell me why he jumped the broom for a third time? Yes. This time, May 29th, 1991, he gets married to a chick named Jackie Harris. They get hitched in Vegas and then they live in LA for a year before they move back to Missouri. When they moved back to Missouri in 1992, it's the end of the year. They had a little piece of a honeymoon and I guess Lorenzo laid low for a little bit. But as soon as the new year came, he cranked that shit right back up because January 11th, 1993, they found 29-year-old Connie Luther, a known prostitute, known to be over off of Main Street and Troost Avenue. She's dead. They find her naked, and her method of death, she's been strangled. I don't get it. I truly don't get it. The police know who Lorenzo is. They know Lorenzo's history. But nobody has placed him and these women in the same thought. And so now, I guess Lorenzo is starting to enter into his wind down phase. And instead of killing and raping, he starts being super pervy to his next door neighbor. This is like September 1995-ish. And the next door neighbor is creeped the fuck out. So creeped out that she goes to the police and she's telling them, this man is popping up on my doorstep talking about how I look in my birthday suit. This nigga been looking through my windows. Can y'all do something about this, please? No, because then from March to April of 1996, another neighbor says that Lorenzo is looking in her windows. Like this woman says she was up leaving for work at 5:30 in the morning and this nigga is on her porch talking about what's up. Nigga, if you don't get the fuck away from me, what? But he don't stop. Like in July, that same woman, she goes and gets an order of protection against Lorenzo because he don't understand that no means no. But y'all know a piece of paper ain't gonna make this crazy motherfucker do right. So the neighbor did what she needed to do to handle her business. She packed up her shit and moved out of state. I ain't finna be putting up with this. Oh no, not at my home. Now, what I don't understand about all of this is that Lorenzo has still had that job with the trash company throughout all of this. Yes, the nigga been to prison 50 times, jail 50 times. Not only do he still have a job, he has been climbing the trash truck ladder. Yes, the nigga started out as a helper riding on the back of the truck. Then he moved up to a driver. He did that for a bunch of years. And then in 2002, they promoted that nigga to supervisor. Lorenzo is the HNIC, honey. He's also still somebody's husband. Yes. What we don't know is if this nigga just stopped killing cold turkey. No more bodies are attributed to Lorenzo. But is that because he stopped, or is that because the right cases haven't been selected for DNA testing? Because, of course, by now, these cases are ice cold in 2002. But every so often, one of those cold case squads is formed and they blow the dust off the records. And thankfully, now that all this time has passed, there's some new techniques to test that evidence, honey, that's going to help police find out who these criminals are. And in 2001, Kansas City detective Mike Luster, he started looking into the deaths of a dozen sex workers from back in the day. Ooh, baby. April 12, 2004. DNA testing links Lorenzo to all these damn murders. Hot damn, we finally got a name. So immediately, the police put Lorenzo under surveillance. But by 2004, this nigga had largely retired from the business of being a murdering murderer that murders. So they followed him for about a whole week. But he didn't do nothing. All he did was go to work and come home. He had a little house over on Kenwood Avenue. Rinse and repeat. And after a week, they figured, well, you think this nigga know we following him, so that's why he ain't doing nothing? So they decided, you know what? Just in case he do know, let's go and snatch his ass up. Your boy Lorenzo was about to grab a bite to eat with a little shawty that he worked with at the Denny's over on Burlington Street in North Kansas. This is April 16th, 2004. Now, Lorenzo and old girl had just sat down. They hadn't even placed their order yet when the cops rolled up on them, and they quietly was like, excuse me, Mr. Gilyard, can you come with us, please? And old girl sitting there was like, excuse me, what the fuck is y'all doing? What y'all want Lorenzo? What, y'all got the wrong dude. They take Lorenzo with them, and then they stay with Shawty and ask her a couple of questions about what she know about Lorenzo. And she says what everybody that has ever worked with him said. Oh, he cool. He a real cool dude. He wouldn't hurt a flea. So they was like, okay. So then Shawty was like, well, excuse me, how am I supposed to get home? Lorenzo was my ride. The cops was like, sound like you about to take the bus, sis. Now, April 17th of 2004, they officially charged Lorenzo with 12 murders. Now, while they are interrogating him, you know Lorenzo was singing from the I Didn't Do It handbook. It wasn't me. I would be a fool. What make y'all think? I don't know them women. Yada, 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 la, la, la. Lorenzo say, I would never strangle nobody. But that was funny to the police because they never told him how the women had died. How you know they were strangled, Sway? At this point, y'all, Lorenzo is 53 years old. He been killing since he was around 27, if not before then. Like, this nigga, it's been a long time coming. Now, they fast-tracked the case as much as you can fast case of 12 murderations. And on March 10th, 2005, the prosecution announces that they are going to go for the death penalty in 11 of the cases. They couldn't do it for all 12 of them because that very first victim was killed before Missouri had reinstated the death penalty in 1977. So, all right, so we finna go for 11 death sentences. That's all right, nigga. We up for it. Let's get it going. Now, that first prosecutor on the case, he was ready to send Lorenzo's ass to the upper room. But a couple of years later, before the trial actually started, he was replaced by a new prosecutor. The new prosecutor, his name was Jim Knatzer. Now, Jim wanted Lorenzo's ass to rot in prison. The way he looked at it, Lorenzo's ass would probably die before the state could kill him. You know, after they work through the appeal process, the death penalty takes forever to actually be executed, right? And speaking of appeals, he didn't want to be tied up fucking with Lorenzo's ass for the next umpteen years, so he proposed a deal to the defense. He said that he would take the death penalty off the table and hit him with life without the possibility of parole. The prosecution would only charge him with 7 of the murders and drop the other 6, but if they wanted to go back at a later date, they reserved the right to go pick them 6 up, right? Lorenzo and his team, they were down for this, but only if they did it as a bench trial instead of a jury trial. I don't know what the thought process was behind that, but that's exactly what they did. They charged him with the murders of Catherine Berry, Naomi Kelly, Ann Barnes, Kelly Ford, Sheila Ingold, Carmeline Hibbs, and Angela Mayhew. And on March 7th, 2007, the state versus Lorenzo Gilyard murder trial began. Now, the prosecution, they had DNA on their side. Lorenzo's baby batter was found in every last one of these people except for Angela Mayhew. And while she didn't have no little spermies inside her, she did have this nigga hair all over her. So what are the odds, Your Honor? All were strangled. All were found within a 5-mile radius of Lorenzo's house. And yes, all of these women sold a little ass. But on the day that they were sent to the ancestral plane, the only dick that they saw belonged to the defendant, Lorenzo Gilyard. So either it was a slow day, or this nigga got the dick of death. Or he's a serial killer. Take your pick. The prosecutor, he closed his closing arguments by saying this, quote, either he's the most notorious serial killer in Kansas City, or he's being shadowed by the most notorious serial killer. He has had the bad luck when he has sex with someone, they turn up dead, end quote. I agree with you, Mr. Prosecutor. Now drop the mic and walk on off. Now, the defense, they basically told the judge, look here, judge, don't look at all these cases together. You got to look at these cases one by one. If you look at it all together, it's just going to confuse you. All you need to know is that Lorenzo had sexual relations with a few sex workers. Nothing else. That's all they have proven. How all these women died, my client does not have a clue. Somebody must have been following him, and after he killed the pussy, they killed the women. They was trying to frame my client. And all of these women, they had pimps that was known to put the smack hand down. Maybe one of them did it. All we know, Your Honor, Lorenzo Gilyard did not do it. Thank you. And on March 16th, 2007, the judge was like, whatever, nigga, and convicted Lorenzo on 6 counts of murder. Now, you know they charged him with 7. They let one slide, the one for Angela Mayhew. She was the only one that didn't have semen in her. And because it was just his hair found on her, the judge felt that that wasn't sufficient. But that's okay. I can roll with 6 convictions. That's fine. The prosecution, after it was all over, they did decline to prosecute the remaining 6 cases because at this point, Lorenzo is never going to see the light of day as a free man. So why waste the resources? And the families that did remain of those remaining victims, they were cool with that as well. So Lorenzo was gifted with 6 life sentences without parole. Lorenzo Gilyard is prisoner number 44287 at the Crossroads Correctional Center in Missouri, and he's still yet hanging on. This week's story had me so mad and so sad at the same time. I mean, I was mad because time and time and time again, this monster was allowed to use his dick as a weapon as well as his hands. This man was like a walking can of whoop ass just waiting to pop. I mean, he had sticky fingers. Everybody knew him. Everybody knew about him. He lived in Kansas City his whole life. He had a job with benefits. And he was a serial killer. His victims were all cliche, all women that dibbled and dabbled in the world of drugs and sex works. Victims that break my heart because in so many of their cases, they were alone in this world. Nobody came looking for them. And when the killer was caught, so many damn years later, there was no one to tell. How many broken families, how many bloodlines were ended at the hands of this monster? You know, I introed Lorenzo as a history maker because he has the most murder charges in state history. But what I want to know is how many more are out there? I mean, they stopped at 12 because they stopped feeding the DNA machine. This is the hill that I do choose to die on. If the authorities would just test all of the evidence in every case that's collected, we would be able to know definitively how many bodies these monsters actually have. I just don't get it. What is the use of collecting evidence if you're not going to test it? Like, instead of sending millions and billions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel and wherever else, can we spend that money on taking care of business at home? Since the government wants to make sure that all the babies are born because all lives matter, why aren't we placing that same priority, that same insistence that these lives that were taken so heinously must be solved? We have to know who took them from us. Now, this what I'm about to say is not only true for Kansas City, it happens everywhere. There were so many women that were killed by somebody going on at the same time. As I researched these newspaper articles from back in the day, I kept seeing countless articles about women that were turning up dead, and they didn't know who to attribute their murders to because there were multiple killers killing at the same damn time. Like, no lie, on this particular story, I was trying to find some details on each of the victims, starting with Stacy Swafford back in 1977. I found an article that had the pictures of 8 women, 7 black women and Stacy, who were murdered, and they didn't know who did it. I'm talking Stacy is a white woman, but these other 7 were just beautiful black women gone, and they didn't know who did it. And there really didn't seem to be a lot of urgency behind the finding of it all. I mean, these victims are somebody's mama, somebody's sister, somebody's auntie. This was somebody's child. But because they battled an addiction and they had a profession deemed by American society to be abnormal, their deaths didn't warrant the same kind of investigative urgency. I mean, tell me you don't care without saying it. Allowing 12 women to die in a 5-mile radius for 15 years and not do anything about it? Like, where were the undercover cops working the streets? Where were the cameras? Where was the dragnet? Like, if it had been 12 teachers killed over by Main Street and Troost Avenue, or 12 nurses, shit, 12 customer service reps, take your pick, 12 of any kind of laborer, there would have been such an outcry. But because these women were a part of fringe of society that is overlooked, it was so much easier to just sweep them under the rug. That rug lumpy as fuck because I don't for 1 minute believe that there were not more women found dead. Women that didn't have family looking for them. Women that went in a pauper's grave because nobody came to claim them. They still matter and they should receive what every citizen is due. Respect for their human life and the truth about their deaths. And that, Noir Nation, was the story of Mr. Lorenzo Gilyard Jr. Ooh, we're going to have to talk about this on social media. Let me tell you, Noir Nation and our visitors, I want to thank y'all so much for streaming my little podcast. I am truly thankful and grateful that you chose me. And I want to encourage you all to continue to support the melanated creatives that have some very, very, very dope podcasts. We have to support each other because we all we got. Each of these podcasts are Black businesses that need your streams to keep the dream alive. So I want to take a moment to shout out some of my fellow melanated podcasters, starting with the one that started me off that many of you are familiar with because you probably heard about me over there. The Sisters Who Kill podcast with Taz and Marah. Those are my faves. Love those girls. We got the Black Docket with my girl Tammy. She's just getting started and her stories are deep, y'all. Then we got the Infamous Ones hosted by Kay Johnson. She's also one of the homies. There's the Not My Brother's Keeper podcast by King Arthur. There's Murder in the Black that's hosted by MD and Steph. And those sisters got it going on. Baby, then there's the Black True Crime podcast with Kayla and Nikki. Black Girls Gone, hosted by Amar Kofer. Those are all in my library, and all of us could use your streams. I know y'all be running through these episodes, so give these sisters and brothers a listen, and let's all share in the streams and turn these podcasts that are labors of love into streams of income. Because monetization, baby, is the goal. I'm just saying. And this week's Noir Nation shout out goes to Miss Collins _012006. She said, quote, I have caught up and now I have to wait a whole week for a new one. Sis, you're an awesome storyteller and I've loved every episode so much. I listen on here and on YouTube, sis. You got a fan for life. Love it. Well, thank you, Miss Collins. I appreciate you more than you will ever know. Well, I'm gonna tell y'all this. It is late, it's like 1:30 in the morning, Monday, or I guess this is actually Tuesday morning, and I still need to get into the lab and chop this thing up because I have coughed all up and through this podcast. I told y'all my daughter likes to share her germs with me, and I thought I had did a good job of fighting it off, but as you can probably hear in my voice, there is a tickle in my throat. I am slathered in Vicks Vapor Rub. I smell like an old ass woman today. But I got to get in the lab and chop and screw this thing up so it's ready for your listening pleasure on Wednesday. So as we get ready to go our separate ways, remember this. I don't know who needs to hear this, but no matter what is happening in this world, remember you got this. God made you perfect. And if you don't believe me, check out Psalms 139 verse 14. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know that full well. You guys are awesome. You guys are fearfully and wonderfully made, and I am so thankful for each and every last one of you. So straighten your crown, throw them shoulders back, and let's keep on moving. Until next week, y'all, stay safe, stay vigilant, and remember, if you don't remember anything else I said, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Country girl and her coffee, sneezy, wheezy germs are out of here. It's one love, Noir Nation, and I'm fixing to go take some cough medicine and go to sleep. I will see you guys next week. It's one love, and the country girl is out of here.